Biden drops out, or is dropped out, rather. Another day, another historical event. Wouldn't want Trump's near death experience to be the prevailing narrative, now would we? We're discussing that, the swamp rats behind all of it, and the Soros agenda. I'm Christy Lee, and you're watching The Counter Narrative.
Side.
Again, Biden drops out of the 2024 presidential race on Sunday afternoon after adamant statements, even from the day before, from he and his staff that he intended to stay in the race. Legacy media asks none of the obvious questions, taking the announcement at face value and parroting off all of the same talking points that Biden was a great public servant and collecting all the fawning of statements from government leaders who likely betrayed him in this effort. So as for the counter narrative, let's start with the odd way this was done. Again, Biden had been saying it would take a quote, almighty act of God for him to withdraw from the race. And suddenly, on a Sunday afternoon, he makes this about-face announcement on social media. One of his staff finds out about after the fact. His staff, up until they saw the announcement with the rest of us, thought he was remaining in the race, and they found out apparently with the rest of us. It appears this announcement is not on official letterhead, as you might see. And what's up with this signature here? It definitely looks different than past signatures if you're comparing that on that graphic there. And since when does he underline his signature? You see, this is the one time he decided to underline his signature. There's also no pictures of him signing the historic announcement, no televised address to all those who voted for him in the primary. I mean, that doesn't seem very democratic, does it? But seriously, where is Biden? His schedule has been cleared, and his brother Frank made a strange admission. He said in a phone call with CBS that in his opinion, health definitely played a factor in this decision. Again, after denials all this time from the White House and the puppet media. Watch this.
CBS News had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers, and here's what he told us. He said, "I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country over self. It sounds corny in our cynical political environment, but he nor I are cynical. The goal remains the same: defeat Trump and continue the work that Joe has done. My hope is that our party rallies around this heroic act." We asked him whether he feels that his brother's overall health and vitality played a major role in this decision, and he says, in my humble opinion, absolutely. So a member of the president's family now confirming that the president's health was indeed a major factor in this decision, and calling his brother a hero for making the decision to pass the torch to Kamala Harris.
Now, did you catch that? Frank wants to spend whatever time they have left with him. It almost makes Joe sound terminal. Again, where is Joe? We haven't even gotten to the passing of the torch yet. It wasn't said in the letter itself, but Joe endorsed his VP, Kamala Harris, to be the nominee in his stead. As it says in Front Page Mag, quote, "Forget her awkward, off-putting personality and her habit of speaking like a dim-witted kindergarten school teacher. Those are public-facing problems, and the public-facing problems have to be pretty extreme for them to be disqualifying." Dems stuck with Biden until he had a total debate breakdown. The real issue is that Kamala is leadership kryptonite. Her original presidential campaign dissolved into infighting between her staff and her sister, and she dropped out before she could even contest a primary. She also did nothing of value all these years as Biden's VP. Remember, she was named border czar, but then she never actually went to the border. Only got nearby. News Nation is reporting that border czar Kamala Harris has not talked with Border Patrol Chief Jason Owens, who has been in the position for the last year. And the same goes for retired BP Chief Raul Ortiz, who disclosed back in March that he never had one conversation with the supposed border czar during the 2 years he held the position under the Biden administration. We've seen the disastrous border, and she will also be tied to all of the other negativity of the Biden administration, like the horrendous economy we've all had to deal with. But it's all about those Benjamins, baby. VP Kamala Harris's candidacy is now official per a filing to the FEC. She now has the Biden-Harris campaign funds at her disposal. I believe it's like 96 million or something crazy. Now, Kamala hasn't necessarily secured the nomination, although there's been surprise endorsements from the Clintons, Soros Jr., and power-hungry Newsom. She has not, as of yet, secured endorsements from the Obamas, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and even high donors. Senator Manchin is reportedly looking into re-registering as a Democrat to challenge her. So far, the betting odds are against Kamala if she goes head-to-head with Trump. Let's go see those. So there it is. 65% Donald Trump, Kamala Harris 28% so far. But let's go back to Biden for a moment. If he's not running for re-election, in part on the grounds of health concerns, how can he be president for the next several months? This question was raised in an interview with Fox News' Jesse Waters. Watch.
You'd investigate the people that hid Joe Biden's condition?
Well, I think somebody has to look at it. Look, you had people that lied to the American public. And I tell you what, you ought to take a look at his doctors, because his doctors keep giving him this wonderful report. I'm not a doctor, but I saw him the other day, was unable to get up the children's stairs going into Air Force Ones.
Is it a coup against Joe Biden?
Sort of, yeah.
I think it is. I mean, look, there's a constitutional process, the 25th Amendment. If Joe Biden can't run for president, he can't serve as president. And if they want to take him down because he's mentally incapable of serving, invoke the 25th Amendment. You don't get to sort of do this in the most politically beneficial way for Democrats. If it's an actual problem, they should take care of it in the appropriate way.
Now, many are saying this move to use the 25th Amendment would only hurt Trump, as it would give Kamala a tryout period. Now, some say for the very same reason that it would be great, because everyone would have a chance to see what a Kamala president would look like, and it wouldn't be good. So we'll see. But all serves as a distraction from Trump's near assassination, which we're going to discuss in more detail after a quick word from our sponsors that make this show possible.
Looking to give your wardrobe an upgrade? Well, look no further. Here at God Country & Kin, we've got you covered from head to toe, from shoulder to shoulder, and everything in between. Introducing our brand new Patriotic Collection, designed to display your patriotic spirit with a stylish look that's sure to turn heads. And the best part is, you don't have to break the bank to be your best you. Why wait? Visit us online or in-store today and elevate your style with God Country & Kin. God Country & Kin, where patriotism meets style. Shop now. Visit the Patriot TV store and look for the God Country Kin banner to find the perfect outfit, shirt, accessory, or maybe a great hat.
You can totally see yourself rocking this hat. I know you can. And check out all the great stuff we've got to show your patriotism at patriot.tv.store. Click that link above that says store and join me there at the Patriot TV store.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Welcome Welcome back to Counter Narrative. And, we now have all eyes on the sacrificial lamb, Biden, and his honorable way of stepping down as presidential candidate. Make no mistake, this serves a few purposes. A couple being that the powers that be didn't think a Biden win would be believable, but it also serves as a distraction away from the historical thwarted assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Would Biden have dropped out if the assassination had been successful? Is this what they were counting on? And this would have avoided this having to step down altogether. I don't know. We may never know, only speculation. But they now want to prop Biden up as a hero for dropping out. He served his country well, and now he's doing the right thing at the right time. Clearly, they're doing this because they're competing with Trump getting so much attention for literally and heroically, bravely surviving being shot at, as if the two compare. And they definitely don't want you asking questions about the assassination attempt. They want you distracted. Senator Ron Johnson has released a preliminary 13-page investigative report. It is shocking. 13 pages, so I can't cover the whole thing here, but he's demanding all these records be preserved. And knowing this government, it's going to take years to get those records. Now, here to discuss is Mark Moyar, a former Trump official and author of Masters of Corruption, How the Federal Bureaucracy Sabotaged the Trump Presidency. Thank you so much for being here, Mark.
And great to be with you.
Yes. So lots to discuss with you, Mark, more than I even anticipated, with so much developing, like day by day, minute by minute. But in your book, it points to that this isn't the first assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Essentially, in your book, you reveal how career federal employees effectively assassinated his presidency. So what do you make of this effort? Are you willing to go so far as to be suspicious of this, and especially now the distraction we have in play?
Yes, well, I think certainly we saw with the Crossfire Hurricane investigation in 2016, an attempt at essentially a character assassination of Donald Trump, and an attempt to destroy him, which we now know was based on fraudulent Steele dossier. And then we've seen through these more recent lawfare attempts, again, the efforts to weaponize the justice system against Trump. Now, this latest action, we've got a lot of theories now floating around, and it's interesting. It's not just Republicans, but a lot of Democrats are coming up with conspiracy theories about how this was somehow more than just the act of some crazed 20-year-old. Now, I don't think we've seen any convincing evidence yet on that score, but the Secret Service has fed into this by its unwillingness to share information. And it's been remarkable that, days have gone by and the Secret Service hasn't held press conferences. And we know recently they initially claimed they hadn't accepted or received requests from Trump for more security. And then over the weekend, they had to admit it when the Washington Post confronted them. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. And, I do think people are have reason to be suspicious of what the government's saying, because the government, unfortunately, recently has a pretty bad history of lying to the American people.
And to that end, there are so many questions. It's been ridiculous, the excuses that have been thrown out, like a sloped roof when there were Secret Service snipers on an even slopier roof. It's just gotten absolutely ridiculous. Now you see that the media puppets are all falling in line with focus on Biden's heroic step down and speculation of if Kamala will in fact be the nominee. And so all this attention is now away from an assassination attempt that has glaring questions. Do you think this is by design?
Well, it has been interesting to watch. We also saw on the day after Trump's speech at the RNC, we had the media trying to focus on a bunch of other stories, including this internet outage, including Biden himself. And so clearly part of their objective is to try to diminish the favorable coverage that Trump is receiving. Now, as far as Biden stepping out himself, it is interesting to see how he's done this, and particularly the fact that he has so directly anointed Kamala Harris. It's still not clear exactly what the Democrats are going to do here in the end. I do think that it's going to be hard for them to walk away from Kamala Harris because she would be the first Black female presidential candidate, and that seems to be the kind of thing that Democrats consider to be more important than actually how qualified the person is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to everything that's going on in your book, you talk about federal bureaucracy that did a character assassination, essentially interfered with his presidency. Now there's speculation that there may be complicity in at least the negligence that led to this attempted assassination of Trump. But I mean, I will say I'm one of those people that is sometimes guilty of saying they did this, they did that, and we aren't really specific about who they is. And so who would you say are the main culprits behind this pervasive, persistent attack on Trump?
Yes, well, some people refer to the concept of the deep state as being kind of a centralized conspiracy. And I think that there are a lot of subversive bureaucrats, but I think it's actually worse than a central conspiracy, because what you have is you have a culture where this is accepted. So you don't need one person, one puppet master orchestrating everything. You have people in a lot of different federal agencies, including the one where I worked. Now, there are a lot of federal bureaucrats who are doing their jobs they're supposed to be doing, but you do have a significant minority, and often in positions of power, who think that basically they have the right to decide what's right for the country, not the elected officials. And in the case of the Secret Service, I mean, we're still in the early days of digging through all this mess, but it does seem there's a good chance that there were some people there who were hostile to Trump, and that maybe they were also taking direction from the White House in some cases. But it's clear that resources were requested by the Trump campaign repeatedly. Those resources were denied. And we know that specifically on the date of the assassination attempt, resources were being allocated to a small Jill Biden event in Pittsburgh that could have been used. So we know there's that type of negligence. Beyond that, was there negligence in who was assigned to work this particular event, or was there even some deliberate activity there? We still don't know all of those questions, but it's very disturbing. And the head of the Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, is actually right now appearing before Congress and appears to be rather befuddled. I mean, it's remarkable that she is not really stood up to take responsibility, and it does seem that she's trying to just hold on to her job. I'm not sure she's going to be able to do that much longer.
I mean, I should hope not. But again, if you're just joining us, we're talking to the author of Masters of Corruption, Mark Moyar. And just for some context, we've been talking about the way that Trump was persecuted, but you yourself have been personally under attack when you served. Can you give us some background on that?
Yeah, so I was an appointee at the U.S. Agency for International Development, one of about 4,000 political appointees in the Trump administration. And I quickly found myself surrounded by bureaucratic corruption. And so I went to the appropriate authorities to talk about this. And one of the first warning signs I got was said, "Oh, that's great. You want to do something about this, because most people here don't do anything when they see corruption." So, and I later figured out why that was, because you face enormous blowback. And I ended up getting accused falsely of publishing classified information, although I was never actually prosecuted because it was a ridiculous allegation, but I got fired from my job for this. And part of it too was there were some political appointees themselves who were part of the problem. They weren't actually supportive of Trump. So that's the biggest thing I think in a second Trump term you need people who are really qualified and who are committed to the president's agenda. And we saw this, unfortunately, in other places with people like Rex Tillerson at the State Department and James Mattis at the Defense Department, who weren't in line with the White House policy. But we've also seen since Trump stepped down, they continue to go after people like Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon, put them in jail for doing the same thing that our Attorney General Merrick Garland, who put them in jail, has done in terms of refusing to respond to a congressional subpoena.
And I mean, that's one of the biggest complaints and criticisms that Trump gets, is that he promised to drain the swamp, and it was the very swamp and some swampy creatures that he trusted that really prevented him from being as effective as he could be, and are still in there. So are you confident that Trump has learned his lessons? Do you feel that JD Vance is trustworthy? Thoughts on all of that?
Yes, I do think he has learned the lesson. We saw that actually in 2020, you really started to see the White House picking up on some of these personnel problems. So the people who were responsible for getting me fired, including someone who was on the Presidential Personnel Office, was fired because you had John McEntee come in, and he realized that there was a severe problem within the political appointee world, that you had people who were not there for the right reasons. They were not actually pushing the White House policies. But by then it was a bit too late to fully drain the swamp. But this time around, we are seeing that the administration, the transition team, is preparing well in advance to try to get people. They're doing a lot of personnel screening already, because of course one of the problems you had in 2016 was that Chris Christie was put in charge of personnel, and they didn't realize till after the election that he was not really getting the right kind of people. So they basically started over square one in November of 2016. This time they'll have 4 years to put a team together, and I'm confident they will get the right kind of people this time.
Okay. Let's return to the conversation about the attempted assassination, because I do feel like there's going to be efforts to bury that, and we're not going to get answers, and we certainly need a lot of answers. There's potential evidence. You have to be so careful about how you word these things, but there's some potential evidence that in some ways the shooter, Thomas Crooks, was a patsy in all of this. I mean, there's been evidence presented that there may have been more than one shooter. And then, what seems so far-fetched to me is that this 20-year-old who didn't seem to have much of a social media footprint had not only one but two phones. I believe one in which they had great difficulty in getting into. They say encrypted accounts overseas. I mean, it seems pretty far-fetched for this 20-year-old, no social media footprint, no background. It just is wild to me. What are your thoughts on? I mean, the Daily Mail had that article that about that, and that now there's supposedly this Iranian plot involved. I mean, it seems out there.
Yes. Well, and this too is, again, where the Secret Service needs to be forthcoming. Presumably they will hand over this information to Congress fairly soon. But right now, I mean, it seems almost incomprehensible that someone like this, who was seen, identified, an hour or more before the shooting, that he's able to climb onto a building that is apparently filled with snipers, and that you have all these people telling the police well in advance and even taking videos of this guy with a gun going on this roof, and somehow he's able to get shots and hit the president of the United States. And it's still just a bit befuddling to everyone, and the fact that this is so incredible, I think, leaves open all sorts of suspicions about who was doing what his ties were. Hopefully we will find out more from these phones. Although there's also, if this guy had significant smarts or was working with people who knew what they were doing, they probably had ways to prevent permanent messages from remaining on those phones. So I'm not sure we'll actually get to all of that. But I think at this point, one would think probably this is just gross incompetence, and in combination with the deprival of resources and the unwillingness to provide those resources as requested by Trump. But until we get a lot more clarity from the Secret Service, people are going to be willing to think of all sorts of other possibilities.
And I mean, didn't you allude to earlier that the Secret Service Director Cheadle and even Mayorkas lied about the protection that he had? Because the narrative is that this Iran plot that no one knew about until after this happened is actually what prompted Secret Service to boost protection before the rally. But as you said before, it's coming out that not only was it not boosted, but he didn't even have Secret Service necessarily protecting him. Like other people were called in. So, I mean, isn't that just a blatant lie they were caught in?
Yes, it was. And well before the Washington Post reported this, you had Susan Crabtree of Real Clear Politics reporting this, I think around July 14th. And the Secret Service came out and said, no, it's not true, as you've reported, Ms. Crabtree, that people in the Trump administration requested these resources. And so, yes, they have been caught in a flagrant lie. They haven't really explained, I don't think, how suddenly after the Washington Post exposes that, oh, yes, well, in fact, there were these requests. And there's some other unanswered questions, too, I think, about what appear to be DEI practices taking precedence over the safety of the president and others under Secret Service protection. It does appear that Ms. Cheadle has been pushing for hiring certain numbers of women, and women may be qualified to do these jobs. But we saw in that video there was a woman who was much too short to actually protect the former President Trump, and so we need to understand what sort of other activities are going on in the Secret Service that are undermining the safety of our politicians.
And as we wade through all of this speculation, and then we're all citizen journalists at this point, all doing our own investigations. How can your book help us really get to the heart of how these things can happen? Your book, again, Masters of Corruption: How the Federal Bureaucracy Sabotaged the Trump Presidency. Where can we get that, and what can that help us understand?
Yes, it shows how there are some really bad actors within the federal bureaucracy. I mean, we like to sometimes think that we have good, patriotic Americans. Again, most of them are pretty good, but it was shocking to me going into this particular part of the bureaucracy how much corruption there was, how many bad actors there were, and how the leadership of the organization failed to hold people accountable. And so I think it helped people understand the depth of the problem. And it's also cautionary in that it shows how the bureaucracy will try to crush anybody who cries foul. And we need Congress, among others, to put in new protections to protect the people who are actually reporting these things. And I'm sure we're already seeing this too in the case of the Trump assassination attempt, that you have these Secret Service whistleblowers who are going to be targeted by the bureaucrats who they are informing on. And book can be found Amazon, bookstores, audible.com has an audio version as well.
Well, you certainly have a lot more material, Mark, to start churning out another book because, like I said, there's just more and more things you can dig into as the days go by, right?
Yes, I mean, just in the last, you could write a whole book about what's happened in the last week between the assassination and the RNC campaign and Biden dropping out, and we still have months more to go here. It is going to be fascinating, especially to see how the Democrats try to move on from the kind of mess they have, where they have they're saddled with Kamala Harris, who I think almost nobody thinks is a strong candidate, but they seem to be under a lot of pressure to keep her.
Absolutely. And just to a final, like, I guess you could say, fun question. Being that you were a former Trump official, being that you have some like firsthand knowledge of the way these people think and all of that, do you have any predictions going forward of how you see all of this playing out?
Well, there are a number of folks close to Trump and his transition who I think fully recognize the threat posed by the bureaucracy. And I do think they are going to be vigilant this time around in a way they weren't. And they are going to go in and figure out pretty quickly who the biggest roadblocks are. That's another reason I wrote the book, as I mentioned who the worst actors are in the agency. And now it's hard to fire people, but if you can't fire them, you can move them out of positions of authority. Now, this is an area too where Congress should act and make it actually easier to fire people, because right now our best solution is push somebody who's making $200,000 a year into some closet where they're not doing much, but we're still paying their salary for that. So we need to find ways to remedy that problem.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And great to be with you again today.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Up next, Soros. You just can't get away from the Soros family. Soros Jr. has come out in support of Kamala Harris for president. They took a sweet little picture together. They seem to have their hands on all things to destroy America. We discuss with the author of The Soros Agenda. That's next.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0. When I invented My Pillow, it had everything you'd ever want in a pillow. Well, now there's new technology that makes it even better. My Pillow 2.0 has my patented fill combined with a cooling fabric with temperature regulating thread. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
Now's the time to go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use the promo code to save 50% on your My Pillow 2.0. Not only that, for a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
mypillow.com. I don't know about you, but I have to have that cup of coffee in the morning. And Kingdom Cup is mold-free, it is pesticide-free, and it is organic. It's got this flavor that is delicious. You don't even have to put cream or sweetener in it.
Why did we go with the bean form, the whole bean? Because ultimately the powder form is the one that gathers the most moisture. And that means the more potential mold development. This is actually organic, mold-free, certified. That's important because ultimately people drink coffee, it's cultural. And so we tried to meet the culture where it is and create a healthy alternative.
Make the healthy choice for you and your family. Try mold-free, pesticide-free, and it's organic. Delicious Kingdom Cup coffee. And it's available now at the Patriot TV store. Go to patriot.tv and click on store. You'll find Kingdom Cup coffee in the health and wellness section. Order Kingdom Cup coffee at the Patriot TV store now.
Gotta love that coffee. Love the Sherwoods. Make sure that you're supporting our sponsors because ultimately that's what keeps the show on the air. So if we don't get support of our sponsors, then we don't know if we can keep the show on. So really humbly ask that you support our sponsors. You can also support me directly if you go to patriot.tv/counter narrative. That's patriot.tv/counter narrative. From there, you'll be able to see all the past shows and you'll get full access if you become a member of the Patriot Defender subscription club. Number of options you see there, $9.99 a month, or you can save even more if you just go with the annual member subscription. The most is saved if you go with a 2-year subscription and gives you some extras. And again, this will give you access to everything Patriot.tv has to offer. And more importantly, it supports the message. We're talking about the Soros family. They certainly prop up the fake news media, the propaganda puppets, but we don't have that kind of access here at Patriot.tv. We're supported by viewers like you, keeping the truth on the air, keeping news analysis like this, exclusive interviews. So please, again, sign up there at Patriot.tv/counter narrative. All right, the Soros dynasty, it seems to be behind Biden stepping down. Soros Jr. has endorsed Kamala. Why do they have their hands in everything? Well, here to discuss is Rachel Ehrenfeld. She's the author of the Soros Agenda and founder of the American Center for Democracy and the Economic Warfare Institute. Such an honor to have you with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you have written.
Why
Go ahead.
Soros is everywhere? Because he has been doing it for a very long time. He's been funding the Democratic Party for decades. And his money talks and his influence talks also largely, and a lot of money. And when Soros gives money and supports somebody, others are joining him too. He's kind of head of the spear. Alex Soros now, who is engaged to Huma Abedin, Hillary's very close former aide, current aide, very complex relationship there, is of course, he actually supported Biden, and he kept saying until the announcement was made, at least publicly, that Biden should stay. And he should continue and call Donald Trump a convicted criminal. He was completely behind Biden, at least financially and publicly. Now, with the change, he will support Kamala. He is supporting Kamala, he announced that. But we shall see, since not everybody is supporting Kamala, and since money really is a very big issue here, maybe they will jump to somebody else. Maybe Hillary Clinton. Hillary has yet to become president, right? So that's what she wanted. They have been big supporters. Soros has been a big supporter of Hillary until Barack Obama showed up. So with this kind of history, I mean, don't count support for somebody else. If things didn't turn up for Kamala, who has really failed in primaries before, etc. So we shall see. But money, they certainly declare their support, and money is flowing because they want to support the Democratic Party. So that's where things are at the moment. But it's a very, it's a fluctuating situation.
And I mean, you have dug into this, and so you're going to understand this more than most. It's really hard for the average person like myself to understand the motive behind the Soros agenda. I mean, here you have people that have called. I know,
Read my
right?
book, you'll understand it. Read the Soros agenda.
Yes,
You will see.
there are so many books to read.
Yeah,
I mean, but
know.
like to the point, to the main point though, the reason it's hard to understand the motive is because everything that they touch, everything that they do is for destruction. I mean, the district attorneys that they've put support behind that have allowed crime to rise to unprecedented levels. I mean, everything that they touch is destructive. And so what's the purpose? I mean, they already have money. Why do they have this desire to destroy America?
Well, Soros said when he started his activities is in the United States, his Open Society Institute, it was called at the time, now it's Open Society Foundations, in 1993, he said that his goal is to change America. And he went ahead and he did a pretty good job, judging by what we are living through today. The plan, what he planned, how he planned it, and how he implemented it what kind of tactics, what kind of strategies he's been using, I actually explain in the book. The book is not a telephone book with all the organizations that Soros has funded, because nobody knows actually how many and which organizations he's funding directly and indirectly. It's truly, it's like cancer. I mean, and it's spreading, and it's changing when needed, right? Okay, so yesterday supporting Biden, today supporting Kamala, and there will be new organizations, I can assure you, that are popping up that will now get money from Soros and collect monies for Kamala. That's the way things are moving. That's the way they've been always doing business. So, but he has been supporting. The goal is really to create chaos, as much chaos as you can have. So, his initiatives early on, when he just started, the first thing was really to try and challenge the criminal justice system in the United States, and how to do it, and also to change the resolve of the American public. So, and to what extent they adhere to their values, to their traditions, to what extent they actually obey the laws. So, the first initiative was legalizing drugs. And by legalizing drugs, he wanted initially to legalize all drugs. There was a pushback from Arizona, so he said, okay, so let's only go for so-called medical marijuana. What is medical marijuana? There is no such a thing. Although there are now dispensaries and states have been legalizing medical marijuana and other. The FDA to date has only approved 4 medicines that have been produced from components of the marijuana plant, of the cannabis plant. Only 4. The rest of it, what people are buying in dispensaries, on the street, wherever, are, I don't know, all kind of ingredients, including some marijuana and very often high levels of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which really affects the brain. And these are causing, this can cause, and I have a chapter documenting the latest medical research about the damages that are caused by using marijuana, so-called medical marijuana, by using marijuana, especially on young people, and arresting their development, changing their brain functions, causing lung problems, causing digestive problems, causing even changes, long-term changes that affect the children of these young people, if they have children, and if pregnant women are using it. There is a long, long, long list of the most really interesting research and up-to-date research on these issues. Yet, and people acknowledge, and people say, well, we really don't know much about this, but hey, let's legalize it. Why not? You know, and causing huge damage to, I don't know, millions of Americans who are using it. This should not be the way things are moving forward, and the major temptation to allow marijuana is because it generates huge amounts of money to the states. However, much of the marijuana, as much money as it generates to states, where it is sold legally, and when there are businesses, is actually not going to, not all the money is going to the states, because the illegal market in marijuana, despite what Soros promised everybody will not happened, and illegal sales of marijuana and illegal businesses in marijuana are spreading all over the country. Moreover, the people who use marijuana, because it's not approved by the FDA, you don't know what you are getting. It includes very often other drugs. So it's a getaway drug for other drugs, because people sometimes it's fentanyl and then people die, but it can have some heroin, a little bit of cocaine, a little bit of other drugs, amphetamines, that then lead people to use more harmful drugs that cause serious addiction. Marijuana causes addiction as well. Despite Soros's promise then back in 1993, 1994, that, oh no, marijuana doesn't cause any addiction. Well, he lied about many things. He lied about that too. But then you have people who are doped, so they don't have all their faculties. Their judgment is off. You have many accidents on the roads and factories and everywhere that we don't know about the cause by marijuana, because they still don't have, if somebody is arrested on the road because he's driving strangely, and then they test him whether he was using alcohol, there is no anything now to actually examine somebody like that who used marijuana. So therefore, we don't have statistics about it. So, but there are many who turns out to be drug addicts. So marijuana addicts. So the damage of drugs to this country is not only by the more than 350, 400,000 people who died in the last couple of years because of fentanyl, but also the damage to the economy is tremendous. It's hundreds of billions of dollars every year. It's the accidents, it's damages from health issues, so that we have to pay for. It damages that will be long lasting because the effects are long lasting. So we are losing generations, we are losing working force, we are losing all kinds of things, and we are losing judgment. We are losing a thinking, normative, how to describe it, population. So
I mean, it does,
because
it does.
he claimed that this is why he was doing it, because then the second thing came, because it is racial, because most people who were arrested for drug violations, including people that Kamala Harris sent to prison with hard sentences, were using drugs. So this is a racist law, and we have to get rid of it. Okay, he didn't go to Congress to lobby for the law. He went to local. He went to cities. He went to places. He went to states, and that's the way that he tried. That actually by convincing these localities not to enforce the law, then you didn't need to change the law, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does seem like the theme here, Rachel, is, I mean, all things that lead to death, all things that lean to being able to control the population. And if we dumb them down, if we get them addicted, we can control the population. So, I mean, there's definitely that theme there. But I did want to make sure I asked you about what's going on in Nashville, because there was this story that came out that Nashville Council had to condemn a neo-Nazi group as it disrupted proceedings. Can you explain to me what happened there and how it relates to Soros?
This neo-Nazi group was also a group that was demonstrating in Charlottesville in 2017, and they probably were demonstrating there in 1917 as well, but maybe. But they were then probably called the Ku Klux Klan. But the white, so now they were issued following the events of Charlottesville and the damages that they caused there. A federal court issued a ruling that they had to pay something like $26 million as fine. So this demonstration came actually on the as the effect of that. So and they changed their name. This is the Patriot Front, and before it was something else. So this kind of organizations usually change their names. And similarly to what America is suffering now much more from Hamas supporters, from Islamist Nazis organizations. They often work together, but this group is a white supremacist group, and that's the story with them. They were marching there also in February, not such a big group, but apparently Tennessee is a home to this group. So it would be good to keep an eye on it, and also to make sure and to follow up on the relationship with the Hamas supporter terrorist organizations that are demonstrating everywhere.
Well, again, Rachel is dedicated to monitoring these threats to national security, also with her organization, American Center for Democracy. And, people can really get one step ahead of understanding all this and at play and exposing these things if they read your book, The Soros Agenda. And so where's the best place to pick up a copy?
Not if. People who are fighting now, especially after this change with Biden, etc., and the attempt to assassinate Trump, they will see they will understand how these plans have been developed, what did it take to implement them, what kind of strategies and tactics have been used, and learn from it in order to be able to counter them. It's very important. So I strongly recommend the book, and also the website, acdemocracy.org. You have more information about the book, where to buy it, Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, etc. And also more articles and more information about what is happening here and elsewhere, and I recommend both. And thank you.
Yeah, you bet. One more quick question. Obviously, they have this method for shutting down investigation or criticism of the Soros family by this blanket statement that if you do have any critiques, then you must be anti-Semitic. How do you get around that?
I'm Jewish. Okay, I'm an Israeli American. I have dual citizenship. And I criticize him because I'm criticizing his policies. And everybody can criticize his policies as long as he criticizes his policies and not the religion he was born into, which he doesn't believe in, and he actually declared that he's agnostic. So criticizing Soros's policies is nothing wrong. Go ahead and do it. And actually look into it and see how these policies have contaminated or spread through the radical progressive left, and you understand what is happening. It has nothing to do with the religion he was born into. So he actually doesn't like the Jewish state of Israel. He doesn't approve of the Jewish state of Israel. And he actually funded directly and indirectly Palestinians and Palestinian terrorist organizations. So it's important to know. And go ahead. You have information about Soros, send it to me. And you can certainly criticize what he's doing.
Well, thank you for arming us with that information, and I really strongly encourage people to get the Soros Agenda written by Rachel Ehrenfeld, so you have the full picture and can awaken people in an effective way. So again, thank you to Rachel. We're going to take a quick break here from our sponsors, and I'll be back to wrap things up on the other side.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to talk about a limited time offer of subscriptions to Patriot.tv and how you can become a member of our Patriot Defenders subscription club and become a member of Patriot.tv. Really, it's America's network. I call it the home of truth. And you can do that for only $9.99 a month. It's a great deal by itself, but what I'm going to walk you through here in these next few seconds is a couple of package deals that we have that are unbelievable. The next membership was the annual membership at $99 that you can save right away. You save $20 if you come in at the annual subscription rate. The best deal that I think that people ought to seriously consider is the 2-year membership at $159. And it includes a special edition of my recently released documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. So along with the 2-year membership, the 2-year subscription will send you a DVD combo of the film, plus an option to stream the movie online, as well as exclusive interviews of Tucker Carlson, Devin Nunes, and myself. So go to the home of truth, right? Go to Patriot.tv today, sign up, seriously consider the 2-year subscription rate. It's an unbelievable savings. I think it's a total savings of about $70 from just signing up on a monthly or a annual basis. So thank you very much for your support. Patriot.tv is America's new network. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. The most important thing is that we are ready for battle. And the best place we're going to be ready is the Word of God. And I like to share a verse every day. Today's verse of the day is from Hebrews 4:12, and it is, "For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing soul and spirit, joints and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart." Again, that's from Hebrews 4:12. And isn't it interesting that the Bible is always referring, that the word of God is referring to the word of God always as a sword, when it talks about the putting on the full armor of God, it says that the Bible is a sword of the Spirit. And then it dives deeper, saying that, the word of God you can use as a double-edged sword, penetrating deep. So remember that as we fight these battles, we all need to return to prayer. We all need to return to God. That is our only hope through all of this, because we've already seen the plans of the evil one and just how sinister they are. You can join me in digging into God's word and prayer on my Locals channel, ChristyLeeTV.locals.com, ChristyLeeTV.locals.com, or just go to locals.com. I'm sure you're on there already, and search for me. Follow the Bible study for free, or you can support me at $5 a month and join the conversation. Well, thank you again for watching, and don't forget to share the counter narrative.
Now I'm on the right side.